Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a quick 20-minute real-time, not sped up, start to finish landscape painting together. So I am going to turn this photo here that I have painted in several different iterations over the years to this painting here. And I'm laughing a little bit just because I realize that it is such a stretch to go from one to the other. But for starters, I'm really just using the photo to get the roof line and the shape and shadows on the roof and the chimney, sort of the colors there and the shape of that house. And I also happen to know the house, having spent a lot of time out here at this beach. So I know that if, for instance, I were up just a little higher, in my perspective, I would be able to see the water a little bit. So that's why I add the water in to the right, as well as the, land far off in the distance. So I started with the sky a little bit. I decided I wanted to do a pink sky. I was just doing another pink sky in a watercolor in the same location recently, different house, same location. And so I had sort of a pink sky in my head, started on that, and then remembered, you know what, I really think I should outline the roof first, because you don't want to have to come back in and do that over the top of the sky. So we're just going to get that outlined first so that it's sort of a placeholder there, so I don't cover that up with the pink. So again, I'm just outlining this. I'm really not going to worry about the whole thing yet. I'm just getting a little bit done there and making sure I have the lines roughly where I want them to be. It's easier to bring the sky down to this and get it right than to bring this up over the sky. And because again, our goal here is to paint this all in one go in 20 minutes. So we don't want to be waiting and having to come back in a few days once it dries and adding on the details, etc. So and the reason I almost always paint the sky first is because my hand is down at the bottom, and this way I'm not, worrying about messing up the paint with my hand or my wrist while painting the sky. So I'm able to actually rest my hand if I want. It just makes it a lot easier. And of course, if you're painting with acrylic, then this wouldn't be as much of an issue. But with oil paint, the painting will be wet for the next several days. So this is one of those things that you just need to think about. And you can also see I chose to put the house off to the left side a little bit. And that's because the water is out to the right of it. And so I just wanted to lead the eye out over the water and make it clear that that's sort of the focal point of the house. It's where the house looks out. Where I'm standing looking at the house is on the lake side of Lake Tashmu, and it is also a really beautiful area, but their view is really out over the ocean side. So that's why I chose to put it slightly off center. It's always, they call it the rule of thirds. It doesn't have to be exactly a third, but it is good to offset things a little bit. Visually, that makes sense to our minds because our eyes will always very easily calculate if something is exactly centered or not. And so if it looks like we're trying to center something, it's just immediately off-putting to the eye. And the eye is actually drawn immediately like a little bit north of center. So that's another just compositional consideration to take into account when you're choosing where to put it. But you could see I didn't have any marks there beforehand. Like I put very, very little thought into it. It was just my sort of gut feeling about where that house should go. So you don't have to overthink it at all. So I'm using Persian Rose, I believe, and I will link all the colors and materials down below. This is a bright shaped brush, which is just flat across, and it's shorter bristles than the brush style that's called a flat brush. So it makes them a little stiffer and easier to control. And I believe it's a size 12. But again, those will all be linked down below. So this is just the Persian Rose pink and some titanium white. And you can see that you can see that my brush looks a little blue. That's because I was using it with some blues on an earlier painting, and I intentionally chose to leave a few on there. I did wipe it off, but I didn't clean it completely because you can see up there in the top, towards the top and the right, there is a little bit of the pink where it has those moodier like purple shades in there, and that was intentional. That was me knowing that there was a little bit of blue left on that brush, and it just adds a little something to the sky, a little depth, a little storminess. So that was a choice. You could also, of course, start with a perfectly clean brush. So I'm just going through, and again, this is not something that I plan out. I'm just sort of mixing it as I go, seeing where that titanium white blends in with the Persian Rose. So, if you're painting this along with me, I would not try to copy exactly what I'm doing. Maybe if you want it to be exactly like mine, go with the same two paint colors, but just see where it goes for you. I like how they blend a little and create those little sort of, I guess, stripes in the sky as you go across. And here I'm just being careful. Like, we don't have to be terribly precise. Anything can be fixed if, your hand or your brush slips. It is not a big deal. So, and you could also choose a different color. Like, I've actually been dying to do a yellow sky. I wish I could remember her name. There's this painter I love, and she hasn't come across my radar recently, but she has this amazing painting with a yellow sky and these like giant rocks. I'm going to find it and share it at some point. But so ever since I saw that, it was years ago that I first saw this painting, and I've had this idea of a yellow sky in my head ever since. So I almost made the sky yellow, but we went with pink. I just wasn't quite ready to make that jump. But so you can do the sky whatever color you want. If you want to be braver than me and try the yellow sky, go for it. If you want it to be a bright blue day, go for it. If you want to make it more of a classic sunset with, the layers of colors in the sky, fantastic. It's totally up to you. So I just happened to go with pink. You can see that the pink has absolutely nothing to do with the reference photo that I used. It just came out of left field there. I had pink on the brain. So I'm just kind of going through it. I'm just going until it feels done to me, which is pretty much now, I guess. I'm going to go into the roof now, and first I'm going to do that white chimney. I love these white chimneys on the vineyard, and Nantucket, and I guess Cape Cod. It's a very, New England style. Maybe other parts of the country too. I don't know. I'm from Florida, and I lived in New England for a very long time. So it's just where I associate the, Cape Cod style house with the white chimney. Like weathered shingles. I love it. These are my favorite houses. A lot of them are not winterized, and they just look out over Vineyard Sound, and they have Lake Tashmoo on one side. It's like this one strip of land with Lake Tashmoo on one side and Vineyard Sound on the other. And the ferries go by, and they have their own little beach right in front of their houses. And they just remind me sort of old school Martha's Vineyard. Like I said, a lot of them are not winterized. I just picture them filled with sand and barefoot, muddy kids all summer, and having little campouts on the beach and bonfires on the beach. I love them. So if I could have a house on Martha's Vineyard one day, it would absolutely be in one of these locations. So you can see here, I'm just getting that gray of the roof down, and then I'm going to do a slightly lighter shade in a minute off to the side. But here I'm getting the other side of that roof that pokes out over the white triangle. It's really good, especially when painting. Well, when painting so many things, one of the tactics that I personally really use and that they will teach you in art school is don't think of it like you're not painting a roof. You are painting a puzzle, and you are painting these shapes that fit together into this puzzle. And we get a little tripped up when we think, about like exactly what we're painting. I think it's just a lot easier when you allow it to be just the shapes. Okay, so there, now I'm outlining. You can see where it's like the side of that triangle. See, I'm just adding a little of that black into the roof. And now I just changed my mind. I'm going to lighten it up a little more. Just like fine-tuning the little details here. But if you look at what I'm doing, it's really very, very basic. Just a few shapes fit together. And I'm just brightening up the white there right now. I love the crispness of these houses. The white, gray, and black. It's just, I think they're really beautiful, and that's what really appeals to me about this house, even though you can't see it that well in my reference photo. It's just, it always looks so beautiful to me against the sky. So that's what was really appealing to me, especially against a pink sky like this, just the black, white, and gray. I think it looks pretty cool, personally. But again, if you paint this along with me and you do something different, please share with me. I would love to see. So now I'm just filling in the foreground. Again, you saw in the photo I took, it was from November, so it was very like gray and brown. But I'm just filling it in like as if it were summer. I'm doing lots of beautiful brush and bushes that, you know, you commonly see on Martha's Vineyard. And here I'm going to do the far off land in the distance and the little strip of ocean that we would be able to see if we were up a little higher. So remember, you're the artist. You get to decide the perspective. You're not a slave to the photograph that you choose. And, you know, I did not think about this at all before I started painting. So my point in that is that it doesn't have to be a long process. You don't have to sit and like sketch it out and agonize over it. It can just be a go with your gut sort of situation, but you get to choose. Like if you want to add that ocean in there, even though it's not in the photo, add the ocean in there. So really the purpose of the photo for me was just to get the lines and the proportions of that house right. And otherwise, I'm sort of creating it on my own. So the colors I'm using here, I'm using sap green. I really prefer a Courbet green. I'm out of Courbet green right now, and we have had insane torrential downpours and flooding and emergency flood warnings. Actually, I think there's a state of emergency declared in Miami-Dade County the last few days, so I didn't want to go to the store to buy more. And I actually have like an oddly large amount of sap green. So I've been adding a little bit of raw umber or Payne's gray, just a tiny bit into the sap green in some spots, like right there, what I'm doing right there. And that makes it closer to the Courbet green. The Courbet green is very similar to sap green. I do believe sap green is available in more places. More brands make a sap green. I really think I've only seen the Courbet green in the nicer, quote unquote, nicer, more expensive paint brands. So all of this to say, if you don't have Courbet green, use the sap green like I did, add in a little bit of raw umber, a little bit of Payne's gray, and that's gonna get that same look for you. So, and in some of these spots I am using just the straight sap green. So I will put both of those options down in the notes below in the description. So, and same thing as the sky, I like to blend these together. So you can see that I'm creating separate sections of each color, but they're also at the edges blending together. And I don't even really stop to clean my brush that many times. I just get it all out on the canvas, or in this case, I should have said this in the beginning, I'm using a 8x8 inch wood block here, cradled wood. I believe it's birch wood, so again, that's also in the description. But canvas or wood or paper, whatever you're painting on, I do wipe it off every once in a while, but I just like to let the colors blend a little bit at the edges. So I also usually use a green gold, and I just forgot it in the other room, and since I was already filming, I'm mixing my own of that up too, which I'm just using the sap green, and I added a little bit of yellow and a lemon yellow and a little bit of Indian yellow, but I do recommend having a green gold. It's just such a beautiful color. So again, all of those options will be below. So again, you can see I'm keeping the colors separate, but it's not a harsh line at all. If you look closely, there will be pieces of the yellow pulled into the green, pieces of the green pulled into the Indian yellow. And the only thing I'm really taking care about and making sure of is that, and you'll see by the end that I did this, is just that there are darkest points and lightest points. One of the most important things I think in a painting, especially in a landscape painting, where we can get a little bit carried away, speaking for myself only, I don't know about you, I can get a little bit carried away with just I love adding the bright colors and making it really pretty, and you really visually want to have a full value range of light to dark. So this is what I think of as color composition. So while the actual composition of your painting, where everything goes, is important, I think your color composition and your value scale is equally important. Because while it might be pretty, it might be like a square filled with pretty colors, square or rectangle filled with pretty colors, it's not going to visually make sense to your eye if there is not a full value scale. I think it can make such a big difference in a painting and really elevate any painting. It's something I see a lot of beginners do, is not have their brightest white and their darkest dark. And again, it doesn't have to be a solid white. And in this case, we do have a solid white there. It doesn't have to be a solid white, but just a full value scale. Don't be afraid to have those really dark parts to your painting, or the really bright spots either. So I think in a second I go in and I add, this is a voiceover, by the way. I'm not talking while I paint, but I do believe in a second that I go in and add some bright colors. And again, I'm getting those dark colors in with the raw umber, sap green, and Payne's gray, sort of a mix of those. So at this point, I'm really just filling in a few little spots that remain. And I do love this underpainting color. Again, that will be talked about below too. I guess that did not factor into my 20 minutes. I already had that done. But you can watch my other videos where I talk about getting prepped for a painting. I will link those below also, and that will talk about the underpainting. So yeah, just the last few finishing touches here. That's like a deck where they sit to look out over the ocean. And if you guys end up painting this, please share them with me. I would love to see them. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.